Hey, what's up, YouTube world? It is your girl here again, the Venusian Bull, back with part 2 of my Uranus and Taurus transiting the houses. So we left off at Uranus transiting your 7th house. Now I'm going to need y'all to listen up because 7th house is the house of relationships, okay? It's also, the house of like marriage, partnerships, relationships of all kinds, contracts and like legal binding types of contracts and relationships. So with Uranus transiting your 7th house, y'all, it is going to shake up your relationship. If you're like in a romantic relationship or you're married and things like that, keep your eyes and ears open at all times. This may be a point where that relationship has, ran its course and it's time for it to end. There may be cheating that happens. You may not, completely break up or divorce, but there are going to be things that are going to test your relationship. You got Taurus on the 7th house cusp. So your relationship has been smooth for the most part, nonetheless, and sailing, everything's cool, calm, and collected. That Uranus entering that 7th house, it is going to spice up your relationship and it can dice up your relationship. So definitely be prepared for that. If you are single and you want to be in a relationship, you may constantly be getting put like in the friend zone because Uranus has to deal with friends. You may have like these exciting experiences with people, but it never results in a relationship because Uranus is ever changing. I would say if you're signing any contracts or if you're getting married during Uranus and Taurus, I'm not going to tell nobody don't get married for 7 years because Uranus is transiting your 7th house. Ain't nobody going to do that. But you just need to be aware of what it is that you're getting yourself into and what it is that you are signing. And this also has to deal with business partnerships too, and documents and things of that nature. So definitely be aware because things can be, shaken up, taken out of their, normal kind of idea, that Taurus influence. And Uranus is going to spice that up for the better or for worse. You may end up being in like a long distance relationship, and Uranus, because it rules technology, you may be, FaceTiming a lot with this person, and you may be fine with that. That may be something that works for you. Traveling for a relationship, because you don't have the normalcy of that person being next to you every day. So that could definitely be a change. Even like change in friendships. And we're talking about the close friendships. We're not talking about the 11th house friendships. We're talking about like your close personal friendships, kind of one-on-one relationships. They could be shaken up. They could be ending just for you to, start anew and things like that. So definitely be aware of that energy entering your 7th house, especially if things are dull and ordinary and just stagnant. You may need that Uranus energy to like spice up your love life, in terms of, the sexual department, in terms of getting out and going on dates more and things like that. So, it may be helpful in that sense, but there is nothing that is simple or calm about Uranus energy. So if you're somebody who craves normalcy in a relationship and you got Uranus transiting your 7th house, I got news for you, okay? It is going to be electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. So, shock me like an electric eel. Haven't sang this whole video. You know how to bust it out. All right, so moving on to Uranus in the 8th house. All right, so I'm trying to figure out how I can explain this in the shortest possible way. So the 8th house has to deal with transformation, has to deal with death, it has to deal with sex, it has to deal with intimate bonds, other people's money, and things of that nature. So as far as other people's money is concerned, okay, you got Taurus on the 8th house cusp. You could be getting other people's money, whether that be through inheritance, whether that be through insurance, whether that be from a business. you know what I'm saying? People, you know, paying you for, you know, services and things of that nature. Your sex life is going to be spiced up to the 10th power. I talked about your love life being spiced up in the 7th house, but if Uranus is transiting your 8th house, you're exploring your sexual your sexual nature. You know, you may be wanting to get into things, and it's gonna become, you know, your new normal and things like that, but it's gonna kind of be hidden, because, you know, 8th house is about things that are hidden, and that kind of thing. So you know, you might be busting out like the whips and chains and the, you know, the handcuffs and things like that. You know, who knows? You might want to, you know, get a job working in porn. Remember, Taurus is there, money. You know what I'm saying? You know, might need a change in occupation. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? This Uranus isn't really about sex per se, but the 8th house is. So this is a change up in kind of also like the way that you view sex, and things of that nature. So also, the 8th house has to deal with transformation, and this kind of works well with Uranus being there, because Uranus is about constant, you know, change. So you're going to be doing a lot of transforming in your intimate relationships and your intimate bonds, and, you know, anything that kind of hits to the soul for you. It's going to be a lot of transformations happening with that. It's difficult for me to say this next part because I don't like to be the Debbie Downer and things like that, but the 8th house does have to deal with death. It can be death in the figurative sense, you know, just transforming, you know, a relationship dies and you're moving on, so that can happen and things like that. But it could be the death of, you know, people, you know, close to you and things like that, that, you know, may cause you to have, you know, a revelation and to think differently. That light bulb, that Uranus is going to go off in your head, like, I need to, you know, change my life. Like, I need to reshape my life. I can't keep living this way. You know, this person passed away because of this. I wasn't there. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I'm not taking care of myself right. So it can cause you to do a complete, you know, 180 in the way that you're living your life. You know, honestly, it could, Uranus in the 8th house, transit in the 8th house, could really make you make life changes, honestly. So that's something to definitely think about. And when I talk about like death, when it comes to the 8th house, this is like shocking death. You know, I know it's like, it's not a fun topic to discuss, but we're not talking about, you know, your grandmother that's 100 years old, you know, and she just died of old age. Nah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about like, you know, somebody died in a car accident or something, or, you know, we're talking about, you know, erratic, sporadic things. And as a result of that, like, tragic, unexpected trauma that happened, it doesn't have to just be death either. It could just be a traumatic thing that happened. It really causes you to do an overhaul. Like, the 8th house is real deep. The 8th house is really, it's gonna, if you're an 8th houser and you have 8th house energy like myself, you know about this energy already. But Uranus transiting the 8th house, even if you don't have any planets in the 8th house, it's really going to shake up the core of you, your soul. You know what I'm saying? And Taurus even has to deal with your roots, and it has to deal with, you know, your grounding in the earth. So it's going to hit you right here. So that's the impact of the 8th house. So moving along to Uranus transiting the 9th house. All right, so the 9th house is all about exploration. It's about higher learning. It's about travel. It's about the higher mind. So Uranus is going to be like in a really, really like free thinking, happy place transiting the 9th house. You're gonna want to travel. You're gonna want to see new things. You're gonna want to learn more. Uranus is already like a magnet. It's already attracting different types of things, and the 9th house is akin to Sagittarius energy. So you're gonna be wanting to experience life at its like ultimate at its ultimate, you know, basically with Uranus transiting the ninth. You may decide to go back to school, but you might be changing majors, you might be changing studies, you might, you know, be getting all these different certifications. You're going to be doing a lot of changing in terms of what you're learning. You're going to be doing a lot of traveling, especially abroad, or it's the propensity for you to do traveling abroad and out of the country and things like that. Broaden your horizons in terms of technology. Hell, you might even go to space. I don't know. I forgot to mention that in my original my initial Uranus and Taurus video. So the space aspect is big for Uranus in general. So this is going to be definitely a time of mental exploration on its highest level. You could be discovering new spiritual practices and things like that. That could really be, you know, jump-starting the way that you think about things. It's going to give you a whole, you know, new perspective of the big picture of life. So it's going to be a very interesting time for those people who have Uranus transiting their ninth house. Again, with Taurus there, it's really going to be shaking it up because Taurus is a homebody. Taurus is kind of chill. And when that Uranus gets in there, it's going to be itchy. You may have to travel. It may not just be for pleasure or choice. You may have to do it because it has to deal with work or going to go, you know, see a loved one because you have to do it and things like that. So sometimes the change in the ninth house isn't always going to be, you know, for good, that Uranus energy. It could be because you don't have a choice. So definitely keep that in mind as well. But I would say, for the most part, Uranus transiting the ninth house is going to expand your mind like none other. Okay, so remember that. And the kids, like the young kids that are in school that have Uranus transiting the ninth house, these are going to be some smart ass kids. Like they are going to be, and they're going to be able to use that high level thinking and knowledge and put it to practical use because they got Taurus on the ninth house. Whew, these kids gonna be a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so by the time Uranus gets out of Taurus or whatever, think about like a 12 or a 13-year-old or something, and they have Uranus transiting the ninth house. So putting that into perspective. So moving on to Uranus transiting the 10th house. All right, so this is the house of career. This is the house of reputation. This is the house of your status and things like that. This is you know, for the most part, this is your career. This is what you aspire to. This is your ambitions, your aspirations, and things like that. Now, Uranus transit in the 10th house, that's really the house that if you was thinking about quitting that job, that Uranus in the 10th house, it's probably going to happen. You're probably going to quit your job, whatever it is that you're doing. It's more like you're going to change careers. You know, Uranus transiting the 6th house, it's like you're going to quit your job and go to another job. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a career. The 10th house is going to be a major shift in careers. Like you could have, like, remember Taurus has to deal with music. So you could have like been an accountant all your life and stuff like that. And you're like, I think I'm finally going to decide to pursue this music career. And you just completely change careers. That's Uranus transiting the 10th house. Okay. So, you're going to want to make these changes so that you can build like kind of like this, you know, lasting legacy, because, you know, 10th house also deals with legacy and kind of what you leave behind and things like that. So you're going to be experiencing or there's a possibility of experiencing a lot of changes career-wise. You may switch to different careers multiple times, trying to find a good fit. So yeah, but definitely you may decide to, you know, work for yourself, because Uranus energy doesn't really like to be underneath of people. It doesn't really like authority. Uranus energy challenges authority. Remember, Uranus is the activist, is the protester, and Taurus is about the status quo. So this could be that time that you're finally you know, challenging authority. 10th house has to deal with authority. So that's a likelihood that that will occur if Uranus is transiting your 10th house. So that transit is a big transit if it's going through your 10th house of career. It also may cause you to lose your job. You know what I'm saying? Just keeping it all the way 100. It could cause you to get like laid off or something like that. So make sure that you have your coins stacked up, and you have a safety net so that you can have the money to invest in that new business that you were already thinking about. See, Uranus will have a way to like be like, okay, you've been thinking about this too long. Okay, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Bam, I'm going to make you have to do it. You know what I'm saying? So don't let that be your career, like your bread and butter, how you keep a roof over your head and food in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? But it's a possibility. So please stack them coins. I mean, Uranus is already in Taurus as of today, but definitely make sure that you keep that in mind, because things can happen. Companies could, you know, go bankrupt, or you know, they downsize, or you know, companies like complete businesses completely close and stuff. If you own like a small business and things like that, you may be forced, like I said before, Uranus is unpredictability, so you may be forced to change careers as opposed to doing it willingly. So keep that in mind as well. Next is Uranus transiting the 11th house. And this is kind of home for Uranus because the 11th house is akin to Aquarius, and Uranus rules Aquarius. So if Uranus is transiting your 11th house, you're going to be experiencing a lot of changes with friends, really understanding who is authentic and who isn't, because Taurus has to deal with authenticity and realness and things like that. And Uranus is kind of a bit like artificial in its, you know, thinking. It's not very much about the like personable type of interactions and things like that. But definitely keep an eye out for that, because Uranus has to deal with friends. 11th house has to deal with friends. I would say Uranus transiting 11th house is going to be a lot of changes with friends in the collective, people you meet on social media, the internet. It's going to be a lot of differences in the ways that you communicate with people in that realm, or if you weren't communicating with people at all in that way, Uranus in the 11th house could start that. You may decide at this point, you know, I need to be a part of a cause. Like, I need to be a part of something. I need to be a part of something that's bigger than me. You know what I'm saying? Because I won't say that the Taurus isn't like about themselves like an Aries is per se, but a Taurus is about getting theirs and being comfortable. Okay. That Uranus coming in your 11th house and like shaking things up is really going to make you kind of look at the bigger picture in a different way than Uranus transiting the 9th house. It's going to make you want to get involved in, you know, your community. It's going to make you want to get involved in like activist kind of situations. And if you know, you see people in your area and in your community, or there's different things on Facebook that you want to I said Facebook specifically, but social media in general that you want to kind of get into, that Uranus transit in the 11th house is going to make you want to do that as well. I'm trying to think something else affecting the 11th house. Everything that's Uranian, Aquarian, technology-based, astrology, everything, all of that is going to be very much heightened. All of these, you know, light bulbs are going to be going off in your head. You may become like a temporary genius. As a temporary genius. But it's all about being able to use these abstract ideas and these abstract inventions and things like that towards practical use for the collective. So because of that Taurus influence. And the 11th house is all about the collective. The 11th house is not about you as an individual. It is about the collective. So just remember that. So getting involved in those types of things is going to be a big thing for Uranus transiting in the 11th house. All right. So last but not least, Uranus transiting the 12th house. And the 12th house is quite difficult to explain. It's kind of like the most misunderstood house, but it's the house of self-undoings. It's the house of imprisonment. It's the house of dreams. It's the Pisces house. You know what I'm saying? It's the house of like behind the scenes type of situations. It is also the house of artistic expression and creativity, but more of like behind the scenes. You know, very creative people have 12th house energy, but it's also very, you know, paranormal and psychic. So when you got that Uranus going into the 12th house, that psychic energy, because that Uranus, that magnetic energy is really going to be attracting that 12th house. It's going to like activate that stuff. So you may have some really like erratic like dreams and maybe even like nightmares and stuff like that. There's going to be some really electric things that are going to be happening internally for you. This is not something that Uranus transiting the 12th isn't going to be a lot of outward type of expression. It's going to be a lot that's happening internally, a lot of changes that are happening kind of, you know, like with your soul and with your like your spirit, the spirit world and things like that. So you may like be seeing, you know, spirits and things like that. I don't know. You may get that psychic, you know, ability when it comes to things that are, you know, Taurian related, like food and finances. You'd be like, you know, I just know that or like you may get a keen psychic ability for other people, you know, like knowing what like something that they shouldn't do or something that they should do, and you like have, you know, that it's a guarantee that this is going to happen and things like that, because Uranus rules Aquarius, and it is a keen intuition. It's very intuitive, and with that transiting the 12th house, it could really bring that energy to light. So definitely be aware. It's a little bit different than all of the other houses because this energy is very internal. So this isn't going to be something that everybody on the outside looking in is going to be able to see, and you may not even notice it initially, but you are probably going to be getting more in touch with spiritual things and you know, spiritual practices, occult type practices. Also, if Uranus is transit in the 8th, you may get into that more as well, and just kind of like really getting like a better understanding, a more interesting perspective on you and your spirit. Also, I did mention that the 12th house does have to deal with imprisonment and things like that. So there, you know, it may be some instances where you find yourself imprisoned in the mind or physically imprisoned, like you may have to go to jail for something. So that's kind of an embodiment that can happen on the outside or something like that, but it's more of imprisonment of the self. That's really the 12th house. So just be aware of what's happening internally for you with Uranus transiting the 12th house. I'm sure that I forgot a whole bunch of stuff, but I just wanted to kind of give you a brief synopsis of Uranus transiting the houses. I want to thank you again. Mercury retrograde is getting me tongue-tied. Okay. I want to thank you I want to thank you again for sticking with me through these videos. I hope you got some insight, gained some insight in to what Uranus and Taurus is going to bring over the next 7 years. And again, like I said before, remember to buckle up and, you know, hold on tight, because Uranus and Taurus is not playing any games with nobody. So until the next video, see you later. Bye.